Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dice the milk up regularly while talking about art, the internet, and at this point, anything that I please. I'm Ren, and today we are going to be talking about my experience taking 2 art classes in college this past year. So I would say grab a drink, maybe a snack, put this on the background while you draw. I love to do that too, but we're gonna jump right into the video. And I would like to note, yes, I did have to move a sleeping Tabitha to film this video. So, well, not quite film, you get the point, record. So, she is cooperating me weirdly on my lap. She's currently death staring me, but it's okay, Tabby. I still love you. But let's jump right into this video. Okay, so this is gonna kind of be like a video where I touch upon my experiences taking these art class. I'll offer my words of wisdom that I have gained from these 2 classes, so if you don't feel like quite taking an art class, you can still benefit from it or look for more things to study and further your own education independently, because I used to do that kind of stuff as a self-taught artist, but it also does help to hear from people who went to classes and also get a foundation from that. So the 2 classes that I took were Intro to Perceptual Drawing, which was the first semester, and Intro to Painting, which was the second semester. With Intro to Perceptual Drawing, it was like a beginner class, but it was the hardest beginner class offered at the school. And to Intro to Painting, it was, I believe it was like a level 200 class, so it was like the next level up from Perceptual Drawing, and it had a bunch of prerequisites. But I was able to skip over almost all the prerequisites because of my art professor in semester 1. So, Perceptual Drawing, it was mainly a class focused on understanding the different weights of a line, how to draw, the basics of drawing, form, shape, value, contrast, all that jazz. We worked with a bunch of different mediums too, nothing too bold, but a lot of charcoal, ink, well, mainly ink and wash, but straight on ink, and pencil, of course. So we kind of flip-flop between the 2. And we did try collage once, which I do not like collage. I mean, I like it in fabric I like it in a fabric sort of way, but I do not like it for drawing. And so we started out the semester by doing a lot of just basic stuff. We did fabric studies, which I don't like it, but I understand it was necessary. And those typical brick lighting studies. And I think we also to eventually do landscapes, and we would just do objects and mannequins and skeletons, that kind of stuff to get us warmed up. And halfway through the semester, we were working on skeletons and stuff like that. We also started to learn anatomy, which I think is very interesting to learn the actual anatomy of a human, so you're able to look at a person and be oh, this is this certain bone, or here's this muscle, and this is how it's supposed to move. Because if you get that further understanding of anatomy, you're able to delve deeper into it and be this is how you atomically make up a human. Because once you know the roles, you're able to break them better. In the end, I don't think I actually learned any of the names of the muscles, But in the past, I have done like extensive muscle studies and looking into like the different parts of muscles and muscle groups and how they form together. Again, I don't remember the names, but I disclaimer, I was that artist who would do extensive studies. So once we got into like the anatomy field and looking at that kind of stuff, it was finally like the stuff that I was trained in. Well, not trained, but you understand. It was like in my wheelhouse. And then we moved on to models. There were a lot of figure studies done. We would have models come in like every class, and then we would have to draw them, or we would do an inking of them, like stuff like that to understand human anatomy. And then towards the end, we started working on our self-portraits, and my self-portrait was my final, which I ended up doing when I was sick. Again, if you want to hear more about my final, you can go into the previous video I made, promo, about how we got into art school with 1 month preparation besides art class. But, so, what I learned from that class, I was also taught this by my friends, so I would like to give them credit too, is whenever you learn the technical skills of drawing in a class like that, you have to work with the technical skills you have and fit it into your style, because you have to build upon what you were given to be able to elevate it to the next level. Because at the time, I was in one of the worst art blocks of my life. Like, it was bad. I absolutely hated drawing. Like, I didn't draw for a solid month. I hated my style, and I lost a lot of my muscle memory then. Like, whenever I would try to get back into drawing, I would draw, and then I would hate it, and I would be like, oh my god, there's something wrong with my drawing. And so, what I realized, thanks to my friends, was that I had these certain skills about drawing realistically that I couldn't transfer over to drawing in my cartoon style, because I would attempt to use the skills from drawing realistically into the cartoon style, and it wouldn't transfer over well. So, gaining that knowledge, I decided, you know what, scrap this current style, I'm starting over again, and I will try making a semi-realistic style. Because a common thing that I do is, I would say, like, maybe once every, like, can be like 3 months, or it can be up to a year, I like completely change my style. Like, I know back in 2022 in February, my whole reworking was, oh, I want a cartoony style, because before it was anime. So I was like, oh, I want a cartoony style. So I completely ditched my old style and learned how to draw cartoons again, because I originally started out with a cartoony style. But when it was November, I would say like early December-ish. Yeah, I would say actually that it was early December. I like completely scrapped my cartoony style that I worked for almost a year for, and built my semi-realistic style up from the ground. And I would definitely recommend doing something like that, because sometimes you just gotta do it. I know people say, like, don't ditch your styles completely, but sometimes it's necessary to do that and start from the ground and build up. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fun, but it really does help you in the end. And there are certain things from your old quote-unquote style that are able to transfer over into the new one. And also, I feel like online with artists especially, we have this certain idea of styles, and that has to be like this one distinct thing. But in reality, style is just how you draw all together, or paint, or I don't know, do sculptures or metalwork. Like, that is your style. Your style is just all the shortcuts that you take and the stuff that you don't want to do. So, if you have like a certain thing that you like doing in your old style, chances are it's going to get worked into your new style, either whether it be on purpose or subconsciously. But that's all about style, at least. And I also learned from taking that class that you really you got to get out of your comfort zone, and you just have to observe. It's just really important to constantly be looking at everything around you and noticing the small details, because as an artist, when I started noticing the small stuff, it really helped to change my style and make me more attuned to certain changes in setting or in humans or in just objects. Here's just general tips I learned from drawing humans, but I would say it's all just about being flowy. And with being excuse me. And when drawing humans, it's just about getting it down, especially with figure studies, it's about getting it down as quick as possible. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. You just want to get it down so you can capture that form in the moment. If it's a longer study, then you're able to have more time, of course, and nitpick and erase stuff more. But it's totally fine to have very sloppy shapes or think your figure drawing looks weird when you're going really fast. It took me a little time to get used to that, but once you get used to that, you can start to improve instead of just looking at it oh, this is bad. You can start to see your art from another lens. Also, this is my final comment, but pro tip, don't procrastinate your final. Because I kind of procrastinated my final back in December, and then I got the flu. And so I ended up doing 7 hours of drawing for my final with the flu. And oh my god. Just no. Not fun at all. So procrastination is not good, kids. You should have already known that by now, and I should already know about that by now, but it happens. Okay, so now we're going to transition into the painting portion. Again, disclaimer, this is all just stuff that I learned, but I would like to say, going into this class, I didn't know how to paint. I dabbled with watercolors, but I just knew the basics of wash. And there you go. And I also was learning gouache painting at the time, so I knew how to put paint on paper. That was my best shot. Oh, there's actually gouache all over my arm. Lovely. I didn't notice that. But so I went into this class being okay, I don't know what's gonna happen, but something is gonna happen. And for this class, I actually ended up learning how to oil paint. I know, I was a little scared at first because it's I can't even quite paint normally or paint with gouache. how the hell am I going to be able to oil paint? And let me just tell you, oil painting, it seems a lot more scary than it actually is. I would say, like, the only scary thing about it is how long it takes to dry and mineral spirits, but in reality, I would just say go for it and, like, try the medium, because you don't know what you can do until you actually try it. And it's okay to be intimidated by a medium. I mean, like, that happens to all of us. But as soon as you delve into it and start to explore it more, you can start to learn more things about your art and yourself. At the beginning of oil painting, what I would do is, again, this is not good, but I didn't like to use all the paint, and I tried to just water down my paint with mineral spirits and put that on the canvas. My professor, he like came over to me and he was like, you know, it's okay to just put the paint on the paper. And I was like, yeah, okay. So my first oil painting was a little bit rough. And yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it, but I hated how it blended. I hated how I put down the paint. I hated the still lifes. I hated everything about it. And then as time went on, I started to get used to it more and more. I started to understand, oh, this is how you put paint on canvas. Get the basics of it. I was understanding, don't fucking dilute it. And I also had problems with what I would do is I would put the paint on the canvas and then I would realize, oh shit, this is the wrong color, and then I would mix it up again and put it on the canvas, and it would just be this never-ending cycle of that's not what it's supposed to look like. I think it was like probably my third still life that I finally like understood when we were painting glass, like, oh, that is actually how you do it. And I started developing this method where I would mix up the paint and I would put it up around the still life, and after that I would just put it on the canvas or the paper. And what happened. I would just step away and I would just continue putting these marks. And then soon after that, I started to notice that stuff would shift depending on if the hue was warm or cool toned. And so I started noticing these little differences. And so I would be like, okay, I just put this down. This needs to be a little more warm tone to fit in with this shadow. And then it started clicking. And I actually think that the first painting that I was really proud of was this plant I painted, which I can put a picture up here. And so after painting this plant, it made sense. Like, I was using that method of just putting down the paint one by one, layering it on, and just going with it. And my professor said I was doing a good job with it, and like it was all making sense. And then I remember for that critique, everybody was like, oh my god, the colors and the technique on this painting, it was very painterly. That's the best way I can describe my style, and that's how everybody said it. But I would just go and I would be like, paint, 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 paint. And it worked. It kind of scared me at first, but it worked. And so then we moved on to painting humans. We actually didn't do too many paintings because it took so long, and so I did a self-portrait of myself, staring at myself. Oh, Tabitha, how dare you? And I then started using that method of just mix, put down, and again, it clicked. And I use that. I'm still working on my final currently. Actually, probably, it should be finished by the time this video comes out, but y'all aren't going to be able to see it because I'm going to have already edited this video. And I also did, we did figure studies, which was very scary because we only had, like, I would say 4 hours, I would say more 5 in total to finish this whole painting. But I survived. And so what I learned from this class, again, is, like, a lot of the mix paint. And I also learned from painting humans. This is my professor. He had these rules that we had to do. But one of them was we had to do all of our portraits, and then we were allowed to use white. We had to use mainly different shades of yellow, red, blue, and burnt sienna, and raw umber to make our face. And then once the whole canvas was colored, we were able to put down the white. And he mainly told us to keep white out of our darks so we wouldn't look pasty, and also so there would be a deeper contrast with our paintings. And I actually do think, of course he's right on this, but I do think it did help to make my paintings look a lot better, and it helps to humanize them more. I mean, I already have that style of very painterly, like, big splotches of paint, and as soon as they're able, like, to contrast and mix well, it just works. And so I would say if you're, like, getting into painting, just do that. And the final thing I would say is just experiment. Just experiment. I mean, like, I wouldn't have learned that I was really good at this type of painting if I didn't try. You gotta take that initial step so you can learn more things about yourself in the end. And I know it can be a little scary at first, but hey, sometimes the fun things can be scary. But let's just say that whole semester, there was a lot of paint on me. I got ridiculous amounts of paint on my clothing. And then I had this whole, like, arc going on where I couldn't understand why my paintings were blurry, which, yeah, it's, like, kind of stylistic, but also it's not quite stylistic, because I have that gene where lights have lines coming out of it. I think it's called an astigmatism, but so sometimes the world appears more fuzzy to me, or it looks like there's a faint layer of static over the world. So I was realizing, you know what? That's not my style. That's just how I see the world. Because everybody around me, they would have these really, like, blended and crisp paintings, and mine would just be messy and blurry, which it looked cool to me, but I was just like, why is it blurry? Why? Please, why? But, so, also, don't drive yourself crazy over something like that. I definitely drove myself a little crazy over the whole why is it blurry part. But yeah, that was painting. But there you go. That was all of my thoughts on art class and my experiences taking 2 art classes this year. I would highly recommend doing that if you wanted to further your skill, but I also don't think it's completely necessary, because you can do your own thing, and all artists have different paths. And I think it's interesting to see what it's like to align with the more quote-unquote traditional path compared to what I've done in the past. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this little speed paint that I put up in the background, because I'm currently experimenting to see, like, what other interesting things I can do in the background, because I love the PNGs, but they are a pain to edit, and I want to experiment with my content and see what I can do. And thank you guys for supporting the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. I know that 95% of you aren't subscribed, so please consider joining the Void, because we all love to just scream in it together. Comment any questions you have about our experience I had over the semester. You can complain about painting and getting paint on yourself too. That's perfectly fine. Or perspective, but... And also, I would like to say thank you for 140 subscribers. I know, we're getting there, y'all. We're getting rolling, and I'm excited to see where we go in the future. But thank you for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Goodbye.